So today let's talk about Bitcoin and Venus entering Gemini and what this means for the price of Bitcoin in the near future. So this is going to be our weekly predictions on Patreon for this week. And as we can tell, in the past day, Bitcoin had a 10% decrease from around 27,000 almost. And at the beginning of this week, it was in the 30,000s. So we've really had a 20%, destructive decline in price. And this is due to the full moon happening in one day from me recording this video. Today is June 13th. And we know that full moons are relative lows inside the chart structure. So if we look at a chart of the daily candles, all the black dots, those are new moons. Those are relative highs. For example, on this new moon right here, we saw that there was opportunity to sell because the price increased. And then on full moons, there's bottoms. So for example, this little candle wick down here, and then we saw that for this full moon, there was actually a large decrease at one point. And it was a little bit before the full moon. And that's kind of what we're experiencing right now because we're a little bit before the full moon, which is happening on the 14th. But with that being said, what we had predicted when Venus entered Taurus on May 28th is that since Libra, the sign of balance, was on the ascendant, and we had recently experienced this large crash at that time, what I said is that we would expect to see balance return to the market, and this being an opportunity to make wealth because Venus in Taurus was sextile to Venus not to Venus in Pisces, but to Bitcoin's Venus, which is in Pisces. Sextiles are about opportunities. And then sure enough, within the next few days, we saw this increase into the new moon. And we know that new moons are good times to capitalize on price peaks. So we could see that was a good opportunity to take profits. Now, we see that we generally ranged kind of choppy, like up and down. And we kind of laid in kind of this balance zone, this equilibrium since May 28th between 28K and around 32K. But last night, we see this significant decrease in price, and we see Bitcoin break structure on a macro pattern or a macro structure trend line. And as I was saying, this is due to this full moon coming up being a price bottom and, this pulling the price down a little bit lower. So this full moon is in Sagittarius at 23 degrees. And it's actually sextile to Bitcoin's Venus, but it's like a distant sextile, like a 7-degree sextile. Sextiles are about opportunities. So this price bottom is an opportunity as well to invest, but it's more of a distant opportunity. Like right now, astrology is telling us, based on that sextile of this full moon and Bitcoin's Venus, which is about value. Venus is all about worth and wealth and finance. It's the sextile is showing you that at this time, this is a opportunity. Like this dip is especially going to be an opportunity in a long-term sight. Just because this is a more distant sextile, so this opportunity may not be fully realized. But like I feel like this break in structure is leading us to a price point of opportunity in terms of buying more Bitcoin. So what we're going to talk about is where Bitcoin's price is headed next in terms of trend based on astrology, because that's what you guys are here for. You guys are here for the astrological perspective, the energetic perspective that you can apply to your analysis on price or on your investment decisions, your own analysis and stuff. So Venus is entering Gemini on the 23rd of June 2022, and I have the charts, so I'm gonna pull those up. So this is the chart of Venus entering Gemini. Gemini is the sign of trade, circumstance, and opportunities. It's all about ideas. It's all about business and commerce. And it's ruled by Mercury. Mercury is all about prices and arbitrage and trade. So Venus in Gemini is showing that it's going to be a good time financially in the markets to make, trades, especially because we see the part of fortune being in Gemini in the third house. Fortune shows how we manifest abundance and success. So, with that being said, Venus in Gemini is square to Bitcoin's Venus, which is in Pisces. And that is indicated by this right here. This is a chart of the aspects. So I'm going to cover each of the aspects and what this means in terms of the forecast for Bitcoin. Oh yeah, and like before I start this, before I go into the aspects, the last thing I forgot to mention is that this huge destruction in price we had also forecasted in the previous video, which is about Bitcoin's Venus return. And what we saw in the Venus return chart is that on the ascendant, the sign Scorpio was rising. And Scorpio is all about destruction. It's all about death and rebirth. And it's all about suppression or transformation. It's a very toxic sign, negative connotation. So what I was able to predict is that I felt as though the price would continue to decline all the way until the next Venus return, because the Venus return shows the cycle of something's value. So right now what we're seeing is a destructive kind of movement in price, and like on the other hand, this is also creating opportunities to invest. And we know that the value of Bitcoin is really boiling under the surface, because Scorpio is all about under the surface gems. It's all about value that has yet to be uncovered. So it's honestly one of the greatest opportunities to put money in due to these corrections in price. But I feel as though they may continue all the way until the next Venus return, which is going to be in January of 2023. There might be some months of relief at times, but generally speaking, Bitcoin is going through a transformation in public opinion at this time, and a negative one at that. So it's not going to be how it was in 2021 and 2020, which we see as this area that I have between the two trend lines. They're not really trend lines, but I guess they're support levels. And what we saw was that in 2020, or in one of the Venus returns, the previous one, the ascendant or the sign that was rising was Libra, which is all about balance. And although these past 2 years of 2020 and 2021 were volatile for Bitcoin's price, we just see that it ranged inside this like nice range of equilibrium, and that's because Libra is all about balance. So that's how we were able to that's what we realized, and that's what we kind of connected that to. But now with the ascendant being Scorpio for this Venus cycle, this is about destruction, corrections, transformation in public opinion, usually a negative sentiment. And it's all about the process of dormancy, because Scorpio is about transformation, and it's kind of like the cocoon before the butterfly. So things get very boring, stagnant, but also a lot of potential is boiling underneath that cocoon. So those that are wise, those that are knowledgeable, know that this is an opportunity to take advantage of. And we saw that in the chart as well, because in the 7th house there was Uranus in Taurus, as well as the North Node in Taurus. A lot of opportunity being indicated. So anyway, that's a recap of, this year for Bitcoin's price. Like, that's a generalized recap of the Venus return video and the part of the cycle that we're really in astrologically. So as I was saying though, Venus being in Gemini is square to Bitcoin's Venus, which is in Pisces. So what this means is that the value at this time, or like the flow of wealth, would not seem like it's in the favor of Bitcoin on June 23rd, 2022. So what does this mean? This basically just means that at this time, Bitcoin is not going to look like an example of wealth or value, except to those that are more wise or are looking at it as more of a long-term investment. But like, in terms of, the general public, or like general public sentiment, people may feel like, Bitcoin has lost a lot of its value, so they may not be as interested in it as a form of currency. So essentially, the value of Bitcoin may suffer or have suffered at that point relative to where it once was. But I don't feel like it's going to decrease continuously. Like, I feel like there will be at least one relief rally, especially after this full moon and into the new moon in Cancer. And I will explain why in a little bit, but that's really the first and main aspect about this transit of Venus entering Gemini. Next, we see that the sun is conjunct to Bitcoin's ascendant. So hopefully if I can draw this right. The sun is things that stand out, and Cancer, which is Bitcoin's ascendant, is all about security, privacy, long-term investments. So Bitcoin, that has the ascendant in Cancer, has an identity that revolves around those topics. It's all about privacy, long-term investment, and security relative to other, cryptocurrencies, long-term security. But since the sun is conjunct to Bitcoin's ascendant in Venus, this is showing that as an investment, Bitcoin is going to stand out, especially in terms of its value as an opportunity, or like its price being discounted. Like, people are going to see it as a good point to put some money in and invest for the long term, especially more knowledgeable investors. They're going to realize or understand that the decrease in price is making Bitcoin a more valid investment at this time. And that's what the sun is about. The sun is about things standing out, and sun in Cancer is about something or somebody that stands out for their security, their loyalty, or like their value as an investment of time or love or care, because Cancer is all about preservation. And people with the sun in Cancer, they're passionate about comfort. They love staying at home. They love homely pleasures, and they care about situations of long-lasting security. So how this translates into a crypto chart is this shows something that will stand out in terms of its security and in terms of its value as something to preserve wealth. So that's what I'm seeing is like this very strong ascendant, conjunction, with Bitcoin's ascendant with the sun, as indicated by the bold square that's around the conjunction symbol. It's almost a direct conjunction. And this really shows that Bitcoin's standing out as an investment, especially a long-term one, especially due to its decrease in value, which we see with that Venus in Gemini square to Bitcoin's Venus, which is happening simultaneously with the conjunction of the sun to Bitcoin's ascendant. Now, the next aspect is that we see Jupiter square to Bitcoin's sun. Jupiter is all about benevolence. What's up, guys? I hope you enjoyed. Part 2 of this reading is continued on Patreon for my Jupiter tier. So definitely check that out to see the rest of these predictions. And as well, I do a free natal chart reading for each of my Jupiter tier subscribers on Patreon, where I break down your personality, your gifts, and your life path based on your North Node. So that is the promo that I'm doing at this time. It's definitely worth it, and for you guys to check it out. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys sometime soon in another post, and I will see you guys on Patreon.